Hello, everybody, and welcome here to another episode of the BSN podcast. Today is Monday, August 8th. Hopefully, everybody is having a good day so far here today and had a good rest of their day yesterday. It is, in fact, Monday, August 8th here today. Hopefully, everybody had a very good weekend. It was a very exciting weekend. A lot of great sports on. You had the green and white scrimmage for the Jets. You had training camp again today. And then you had, obviously, all the baseball that was on for the Yankees. It was a real struggle for the Mets. It was a great weekend, and that was kind of the story of the New York baseball. So I apologize. I was out actually today at Jets training camp. So I was at Jets training camp today. So this video is going to be up a lot later, much later than usual. It is actually 7:27 Eastern right now when I'm currently recording this video. So it is a lot later than usual. It is I usually record these videos early on in the morning. This is a lot later. I was at training camp today, did a whole bunch of other stuff, was great. It was an excellent day at training camp, was also at the green and white scrimmage on Saturday, so I got a lot of good close-up looks at, Wilson, got a lot of good, up-close looks at just this team in general, because for the most part, I was watching on video, seeing video, what beat reporters, reading tweets and stuff. This was the first 2 days that I've actually been able to see live action and seeing this team play in person, up and close so far this year. So it was a lot of fun. It was a great couple days. Actually, I met Zach Wilson today, got a picture, and got him to sign something for me. So that was really pretty cool there. It was awesome. So it was a great weekend. So I apologize doing this video a little bit later on. But tomorrow I'm going to do a kind of a Jets training camp update again. But I'm going to kind of take the green and white scrimmage, and I'm going to take today, what I saw today, kind of combine it and give you what I saw with my own eyes, because now this is my first time getting a look at this team with my own eyes. Usually it's been via video, like I said, tweets, all that stuff. So it's kind of been all over the place with that. Watching all these different things and getting it. I was able to watch with my own eyes, saw a lot of good things. So tomorrow, gonna get all my notes ready, all that stuff, and then do that tomorrow. But for today, it's going to be a quick podcast. Like I said, it's late. One bonus of having the Yankees on late is I'm able to get these videos done. If the Yankees were on right now, I wouldn't be doing a video right now because I'd be watching the Yankees. But the Yankees tonight got a late night. They're out all the way out west in Seattle. But the topics for today's podcast, we're going to get to the Yankees' recent struggles. We're going to get into it, just talk about it, and that's really it. And then get to the New York sports update and call it a day. It's going to be a quick video, 15, 20 minutes or so. And then, like I said, tomorrow is going to be my Jets training camp update. I'm going to give you my update. I also want to talk about the Mets because they were phenomenal this weekend, played great. So I want to talk about them as well. Probably get to more of that tomorrow. And definitely my Jets training camp update because I'm going to take what I saw on Saturday night at MetLife, which was a lot of fun, and then again what I saw today in Florham Park at their training facility at training camp. Again, what I saw from that, a lot of positives. Offense, Wilson did good both days. Defense today was definitely a lot better than it was on Saturday. But you're going to have days like that. Becton did limp off today. It was actually pretty crazy. I mean, it was a couple plays in, but it happened right in front of me. He was limping periodically throughout practice, walked off. It seems as if the Jets might have avoided a big injury. So we'll see how all that plays out. But that will all be tomorrow. For today, we got a lot of baseball to get into. Going to be a later podcast, so going to be a quick one. And then we'll get into the action tomorrow, back with all the football and, the normal timing podcasts and all that good stuff. So, with all that being said, let's get into it. This is the BSN podcast, and let's get into it. So, let's get started here. All right, so, the New York Yankees this weekend, unlike, football, where it was a great weekend, watching the Jets, green and white scrimmage, and again today, training camp, a lot of fun. The New York Yankees this weekend caused a lot of pain. They get swept in St. Louis, 3-game series. They get swept each of those games, lose on Friday night 4-3, lose Saturday night 1-0, lose a Sunday afternoon yesterday in St. Louis in the final game of the 3-game set, 12-9, and it was an awful weekend for the New York Yankees. And the New York Yankees right now still are 9.5 games up in the division. They're 70-39. They are on a 5-game losing streak, and they're 4-6 in their last 10. And the New York Yankees, I've said this all along. And what was actually so frustrating about this weekend, before I really get into just the situation around the team, what was really frustrating about this weekend for the New York Yankees was the fact that they could have won each of those games. You know, you might say, oh, well, that could be the case for every game, but there's some games where you get blown out, you move on, you forget about it. Yankees were in every one of these games. On Friday night, they blew the game. Clay Holmes comes in, blows it, Yankees lose 4-3. Saturday, Herman gives you a very strong 5 innings. You couldn't get hits. You lose 1-0. 2 hits. If the Yankees would have gone hits, that game's wide open. And then again on Sunday, where the Yankees score 5 runs, have 16 hits, was actually more than the Cardinals, who had 11. Your bullpen struggles. Frankie Montez, who I'm not going to destroy because he has been through a lot the past couple days, he struggles, and the Yankees lose 12-9. So the most frustrating part about this weekend was the fact that the New York Yankees were in each of those games. Friday, they blew it. Saturday, they just couldn't hit, but they lost by 1. They got shut out. And then again on Saturday, and then on Sunday, your bullpen blew it. Your starting pitching wasn't good, and the Yankees lose 12-9. You score 19 runs, you have 16 hits. You should win it. You should win that game. Yankees do not. And all 3 of these games, there's something in common. And this is why I'm starting to get a little concerned as a New York Yankee fan. Because I said a couple days ago, when there was fans panicking after the trade deadline, or panicking after the Mets series, rather. And they were like, oh gosh, this is terrible. We stink. This is bad. And I was frustrated. You have 2 games against the Mets and you can't take one of them. That's frustrating, right? Especially the way you lost those 2 games. You got off to the hot start in game 1, you lose. Game 2, you come back, you tie it, you lose. It was tough, right? Both those games were tough. But I did say, look, you have the trade deadline. Reinforcements are coming. It's all right. And actually, the Wednesday night, after they lost game 2 of that Subway Series, they went out and got Benintendi, followed up by many more moves Tuesday of last week. Frankie Montez, bringing in Trevino and Efros, all that good stuff, right? But and I said, you know, the struggles that they were going through, it's going to be solved. It's going to be okay. They traded Montgomery, and at first I said I was in a way, I didn't love the move, but I understood where they were going. But now you look at this New York Yankees team, and you really wonder, are they good enough to get over that, to get to the World Series? Is this really the best roster that we could have assembled? Did we miss out on pieces? Now you start to get a little worried because losses like this, struggles like this, there are no reinforcements coming. The trade deadline has passed. You have made all your moves. Your pitching staff now is one big question mark. Your bullpen still has holes. Your lineup, I don't want to be too negative, but your lineup has shown a couple of holes. I don't want to be too negative because the Yankees did score 9 runs on Sunday, but they're leaving runners in scoring position. They're not getting the big hit. I mean, geez, they left 3 runners on in the second, 3 runners on in the third, 3 runners on in the fourth. Bases loaded, they left open, left on twice. Bases loaded twice, they left open. When you have bases loaded, you got to score runs. Yankees could not do that on Sunday. Could not do that on Saturday. Could not do that again on Friday. And these are the type of losses from this Yankee team. And this is where you do wonder if it's just a bad stretch. But these are the type of losses from this Yankee team where at the beginning of the season, these were wins. Yankees were winning these close games late in the late innings. They were, even if the offense was having an off night and it was like 3-1, they found ways to come back in the 8th and the 9th stringing together hits. Instead, Yankees are going down without a fight. They're blowing games in the bullpen. Their starting pitching is not good enough. And they're really, really struggling. And I can't sit here as a fan and say, okay, reinforcements are coming. The reinforcements are here, and there still is issues, and they're starting to really glare. When you look at this rotation right now, there's a lot of question marks. Garrett Cole, is he really an ace? What's Jameson Taillon look like? I mean, I know Domingo Germán, his last 3 outings have been a little bit better, but he's still got an ERA north of 5. Do you trust him against Houston? I know Nasty Nestor's very good. Frankie Montez, I'm not going to beat him up. It was one start. He's gone through a lot, some family stuff. He just got traded over. He came into the hotel on Saturday night. Boom, day game the next day. It was a wild week for him. Okay? Not going to beat him up. Like I said, not going to beat Frankie Montez up. But we do have to sit here and say Frankie Montez does have to prove himself still. If he went out there and dominated for 7 innings, that'd be great. But he still does have to prove himself. I'm not going to give up on Frankie Montez. I think it's ridiculous. You hear fans out there that say, oh, Frankie Montez, why did we... No. It was one start. He had a lot of stuff going on. It was one outing. Like I said, he literally got into the hotel on Saturday night in St. Louis. And it was not like, it was the first time for him picking up the baseball in a couple days. But it was the first time throwing a Trevino. It was the first time in that locker room, really the first time around the team. Like, not going to beat him up, right? Now, if he 3-4 starts in a row now, he starts to struggle, then we can talk. But for his first start as a Yankee, with the way things were going, being thrust right into it, not going to crush him for it. It was his first outing. It's going to happen. We move on. Look at Benintendi. He really struggled his first couple games of the Yankees. He was the one bright spot in that St. Louis series. Other than, DJ and Judge and the typical, Carpenter, all those guys, he was the one bright spot. Very good series for Benintendi, and I think that's the start of maybe him getting on a roll, just getting acclimated and getting used to the New York market, just getting things, even just figured out off the field, where you're living, getting your stuff from Kansas City back to New York, all those things. A lot of stuff off the field that you got to worry about too, and that affects your performance on the field. So I'm not going to crush Montez. He's a very good pitcher. It's one bad outing. It's his first outing. Not going to crush him. Yankees have bigger issues they got to worry about than one bad start from Frankie Montez, in which was a tough week for him, in general. So, not going to beat him up, right? Not going to beat him up. Now, that doesn't mean he's going to get a free pass for always, but, I think Frankie Montez's first true start is going to be his next start. I think that's when you have to really gauge Frankie Montez, because he's going to be able to have a week, a couple days to work with Trevino, throwing bullpen sessions and all that stuff, really talk over pitch mixes and different sequences and all that stuff. Then we can really start to see what Montez is going to be about. But when you look at this roster, you go to the bullpen. And F. Frost, I know, has been good. And you're going to have days, and I'm not saying that the Yankees have to be perfect, but you're going to have days where your bullpen's going to blow it. You're going to have days where your starting pitching's going to blow it. It's going to happen. But it's happening too often right now for the Yankees. And when you look at this rotation, there's not many guys you could trust. I mean, Severino's very good, but he's on the 6th day AL. He's going to come back in mid-September. He's going to have about 3-4 starts to get ready for the postseason. Can we really sit here and say that he's going to be ready to go by the postseason? He's hurt right now. So, even if Zach Britton comes back, he was awful last year. Can we say he's going to turn into his old form? Clay Holmes is struggling. Is the Clay Holmes magic maybe running out? And it's tough because I know you're going to go through these stretches. But these stretches like this, where games earlier in the year where you were winning, you're now losing, that's concerning. That's a sign of regression. That's a sign of just, you don't want to go into the postseason like this. I know it's August, and they still have a whole other month of September, and they play 4 games to start in October, I believe, against Texas. I understand that. But there is, I'm not sounding the alarm yet and saying, oh no, panic mode, this is terrible. But it is definitely, we're on concern mode right now. If you're a Yankee fan, you should feel concerned. And you could sit here and say, oh, it's 1 of 162. I get that, but all right, 1 of 162. If they keep falling and they keep struggling, that's not good. And I don't think people realize how important home field advantage is, how important it is to have home field, especially if you have to face up against Houston. I just don't see this team right now beating Houston. I don't. And it's tough because when you still see this team struggling, things that they were struggling at prior to the trade deadline, post-trade deadline, they're still struggling at, that's concerning. That's my issue right now with the New York Yankees. It's been positive all year. It's been great. And I'm not sitting here and saying they're going to make miss the postseason. They're still 31 games up, 500. They're still 9.5 games up in the division. They still have the second best record in all baseball. They still have the best record in the American League. I get that. I understand that. But not by much, They're only a half game up on Houston by best record in the American League, and we all know Houston had the overall record of 5-2 against them in the 7 games this year, and that's an issue. So, Yankees got to get going. You could sit here and say, 101-62. Well, if you keep having that mindset, you're gonna look, soon, and you're gonna look. The Yankees are maybe 4 games back on Houston, and now the Yankees might not have home field when it looked like they were gonna, march. When it looked like they were gonna, just ease their way into the postseason. Yankees got to get going. They have to. They got to get this thing fixed. They got to get it turned around. I know that it's only regular season, and they're going to make the postseason. We all know that. Look, they're going to make the postseason, all right? They're going to make the postseason. But you can't go into the playoffs stumbling. And it's losses like they had over the weekend where they weren't losing those games during the early parts of the year, and that's concerning because we thought this team got better at the deadline. And I'm not saying that it didn't. I know you got to see all those pieces fall in place, but when you still see the same result, you still see the same things struggling. And you do trade Montgomery. And now you wonder, all right, we could have used Montgomery right now. We could have. Because this staff's really struggling. It's going to be tough to go into a postseason. Cole's got to redeem himself. I've been a big Cole supporter. I got his jersey. I've been a big Cole supporter. All through last year with the sticky stuff, I backed him up. Throughout the early start of this year, I backed him up where he started to struggle. I've been on Cole's side all along. But it does come a time now where you have to sit there and say, look, Garrett Cole's got to prove himself the final 2 months here that he's an ace going into the postseason. Because, look at the Mets with Jacob deGrom. Look at all these teams out there. They all have those lethal pitchers. Whether it's the Astros with Justin. Look at the Astros. They have Justin Verlander. Did the Mets or did the Yankees really have a guy that can match up with him? The Yankees' bats tend to go quiet in the postseason. What if they got to go up against Verlander? They've had a tough time beating the Astros. It's going to be even harder if they got to go on the road and beat the Astros. So, Yankees got to turn this thing around. They really do. Because they aren't just, regular season game, it's all right. No, when you get on these elongated losing streaks, not only does it take a wear and tear on the locker room, it really starts to hurt, your playoff picture and all that stuff. And we all know the Yankees are looking for the playoffs. But if you keep losing games like this, playoffs might be a whole lot difficult. Your road to the World Series might be a whole lot difficult than if you would win these games. So Yankees got to turn this thing around. So they got 3 in Seattle starting tonight. Then they'll have 3 in Boston. Then they'll head back home for 3 against Tampa, 4 against Toronto, and then 2 against the Mets on a long homestand. And then they'll head out west. So, like I said, these are the type of games for the Yankees that you can't be. These are big because these are. It's just tough. And the final 2 games, what was tough is coming out of the All-Star break too, then the deadline and. There's still a lot of concerns with this team. And you could say, what if they call up Oswald Peraza? You hear that on the internet. Call up Oswald Peraza, he's going to save everything. People said the same thing last year about Chris Gittens. Call up Chris Gittens, he's going to save everything. And I'm not anti Oswald Peraza, he's a great player. But all these people out there saying, call up Peraza, he'll put that much needed boost into this roster. Baseball's a team sport. Oswald Peraza is not going to solve the starting pitching problems. Oswald Peraza is not going to solve the bullpen issues. Oswald Peraza is not going to come here and pitch like an ace. He's a shortstop. So to the fans out there that are calling for Oswald Peraza and want him up immediately, just because now we're going to start winning with Peraza, is Peraza going to fix the bullpen? Is he going to fix the starting pitching? Is he going to hit major league pitching right away? This team's struggling to hit with runners in scoring position. Early in the year, we were doing that. Now we're getting out on the base pass. These are the mistakes the Yankees made last year. And that's the concerning part. Is these were the mistakes the Yankees made last season. Base pads mistakes. Bullpen. Starting pitching. You had issues with runners in scoring position. Being too overly reliant on the home run ball. Earlier in the year, Yankees weren't doing that. They were getting hits with runners in scoring position. They were scoring runs without hitting homers. Sure, they're still up in the league and they still lead the league with a ton of home runs, but they weren't as reliant. Now they're going back to their old ways there, where if they don't hit that 2-run home run, they're not going to win. That's the big issue, and they're getting out on the bases, and that's so frustrating as well. So, and Fleff has been bad. I really feel bad for Fleff. And I understand his defense hasn't been good. But when people say, oh, he doesn't have power and his bat, that's not, when people say, oh, he doesn't have pop in his bat, the guy's one of the best hitters on the team. He's third in the team with hits, only behind Aaron Judge and DJ LeMahieu. Two of some of the best hitters in all of baseball. Right? Only behind them. He's got a great batting average with runners in scoring position. I believe it's over 300. I understand his defense isn't great, but you also got to realize Peraza, if he does get called up, there's going to have to be an acclimation period. He's going to have to, it's going to take some time for him to adjust to Major League pitching. I mean, people that just say, you look towards the postseason, people that just say, oh, call up Peraza, he'll be great. Is Peraza going to be able to hit Verlander against Houston? Is he going to be able to do that? Like I said, I like Peraza. He's a very good prospect. But let's hold on here a second. Right, let's hold on here. He's not Bobby Witt. He's not Mike Trout. He's not Bryce Harper coming out of the minor leagues. He's very good. But he's not the number one prospect in all baseball. He's the Yankees' number 2 prospect. But let's be real here. People saying, oh, you hear all the Yankee fans. And it frustrates me because they're like, oh, Peraza this, Peraza that. Like I said, if they call it Peraza. Whatever. If you put him wherever you want to put him wherever. Okay? If you do that, maybe it will out of Joel. But there's other issues on this team too, like the bullpen and the starting pitching. So we'll see what the Yankees do. But it's definitely concerning. It really is. So they'll be back in action tonight against Seattle. Start of a 3-game set. And as for the New York Mets, they open up a 3-game set tonight against Cincinnati. They're up right now 2-0. So these are the games today. You got the Nationals, Cubs, Angels, A's, Padres, Giants, Pirates, Diamondbacks. Mets, Reds, and the Orioles, Blue Jays are in session right now. Orioles are up 3-1, top of the third. Mets are up 2-0, bottom of the third. Yankees, Mariners tonight. Yankees come into tonight's game 70-39. Mariners come into tonight's game 59-51. Yankees got Jameson Taillon on the mound. He's 10-2 with a 3.96 ERA. And the Mariners have Logan Gilbert on the mound. He's 10-4 with a 3.09 ERA. Over under set at 8, 10:10 Eastern, MLB Network. All right, and as for fantasy baseball, by the way, I got my fantasy football league set up. Fantasy baseball, I'm currently winning in my main league 10 to -3, so that's going well there. And I've got Bassett on the mound tonight. And as for my other league, I'm currently winning 1-0, and I've got nobody pitching in that league. By the way, I made it a fantasy move. I put George Springer on the IL. He's got elbow inflammation, picked up Ryan Reynolds. And I also made a trade. So I traded away Christian Vasquez and Willie Adames, and I got William Contreras and Xander Bogaerts. So made a trade, really pumped up about it. So that's in my main league, 13-3. By the way, I lost in both leagues last week. So I lost 391 to 334 in my other league, in my main league, and in my other league, I'm 12-4 now. I lost 257 to 223. Like I said, in my main league, I'm 13-3. I'm still the 1 seed, so it's obviously a tough loss, but I should hopefully bounce back this week. So teams getting healthier. Correa, Bogaerts, Segura, William Contreras now. So I figured I've been trying to move Vasquez. I like Vasquez a lot. He's been great. And the trade to Houston had nothing to do with it because I think he's actually going to get more burn there in terms of more catching action. But I made the trade because Vasquez is very good, but I have JT Realmuto as my starting catcher. So I didn't really need Vasquez that much. And my opponent, he was in need of a catcher. So he gives me Bogaerts, and I give him Willie Adames, and I get William Contreras, and I give him Vasquez. And I see it as a deal as Contreras is an all-star, Vasquez isn't. But in terms of fantasy terms, Vasquez has had a better year. So I see it as he might have got the better catcher, but I probably got the better shortstop. So that's a fair deal. And those are the deals I try to come up with where, you always try to get the better end of it. I see it as I got a need. I had a need. I needed another shortstop. He wanted Christian Vasquez, so I packaged a deal where I also gave him Willie Adames, and I got Bogaerts in return. That's fine. That's good. So I don't really need a backup catcher. And William Contreras will be good for me, but I have JT Realmuto, one of the better catchers in all of baseball. So it was good. I was looking to move Vasquez, and that's what I do sometimes in fantasy. And I know you might not want to hear this, where I go on a rant about fantasy. And I do have an announcement to make about a new podcast that I'm going to be starting up very soon. I'll do that. I'll do that here in a second. But my whole thing on, sometimes I do that. I'll draft a guy, draft the backup. If he starts doing well, and I don't use him much, like I don't use Vasquez much because I usually use my utility spot as another position player sometimes. So I don't use Vasquez much, and he's sitting on my bench. And he's having a really good year. So I could get something for him, and that's what I did. So I do have an announcement to make. I've talked about this a little bit prior to today, and in a couple times. I'm going to be starting a new podcast. So this is, and I did this with Bub's Talking. You know my podcast now, Bub's Talking Baseball, on Apple, and then I also do my podcast on here, BSN Network. So those two are still going to be running. Now, Bub's Talking Baseball every Sunday on Apple Podcast. That's going to still be running. During the off season, however, I'll still be doing podcasts on that, just not as, not every week, just because things won't be as action-packed. But when free agency and trades and all that stuff roll around, I'll make podcasts on all that stuff. But that stuff's every Sunday all the way up into the season and all that stuff. So I've been doing that, and I also, this podcast will continue as well. But I'm going to be starting a new podcast on Apple, as I believe it's going to be on Apple Podcasts as well. It's going to be a Jets podcast, so it's going to be strictly just about the Jets. Every week I'm going to be doing recaps and previews, so I'll probably do a podcast on like a Saturday previewing the game of that week, and then after the game on Sunday, I'll do a post-game recap and recap the game. I'll also do some podcasts throughout the week, news, injury updates, all that stuff. But I'm going to be starting it, either tomorrow or a couple days from now. Just going to do a training camp update and kind of lead into it. And I might do my preseason preview for the game on Friday. So that's kind of what I'm going to be doing with that podcast. It's going to be the name's going to be In the Trenches with Gang Green. So I'm super pumped up for it. Super excited to get that going. So I'm going to have this podcast, Bub's Talking Baseball, and also the Jets podcast, which will just be strictly about the Jets. It will be Jets previews, Jets recaps, Jets news, all that good stuff, trades, all that good stuff, anything that goes down there, it will be that. So each week, I will preview the game, recap the game, and I'll also do some maybe short podcasts periodically throughout the week just on any news with the team and the roster. And like I said, right now, where we are in August with training camp, I'll do training camp updates, I'll do recaps and previews of the the preseason games and all that stuff. So that will be my new podcast. So that was the announcement I wanted to make. So if you're interested in checking that out, you can check that out. It's not up yet. I still got to make it and stuff. But actually, after this pod now, I'm gonna work on the logo for it. So that was just my announcement. So now I have 3 podcasts. This, obviously, which is Monday through Friday. This is obviously the biggest one. Bub's Talking Baseball on Apple Podcasts every Sunday, and then In the Trenches with Gang Green will be my Jets podcast, which will be during the season. It will be videos on Saturday and in the recap after the game on Sunday. And then, obviously, the Thursday night game that we have, I'll probably make a video either on Thursday or Wednesday of that and then recap it after the game, after the Thursday night game. But it will be Saturdays and Sundays videos, previews and recaps. And then during the week, like I said, I might do a short couple videos here and there, just updates and all that stuff. So strictly Jets podcast. That's what I'll be doing there. So super, super excited about that, expanding now with 3 podcasts. So that's what's going on. That will do it for today. Like I said, shorter video today. Just wanted to get a quick one in. Tomorrow, like I said, I plan on talking about the Mets. I know there's some KD stuff too, so I'll figure out what I'm going to do. I plan on talking about the Mets tomorrow, and then maybe Wednesday do KD. I know there's a lot of KD news with his meeting with Joe Tsai, the owner of the Nets. Made some pretty big headlines today. So I'll talk about that as well, but I definitely want to give you my updates from the green and white scrimmage and the training camp today. So that will do it for the podcast today. As always, I will see you all back here tomorrow. Hope you enjoyed it, and thanks for watching.